Hi, I'm Pep Rosenfeld. Salesforce and I welcome you to this episode of Leading Through Change. This one will focus on the financial services industry. Currently, businesses and distribution models require a much-needed update due to the great disruption our industries are facing. Together with Anders Zachrisson, Head of Strategy and Technology, and Carl Sjöström, CMO from Formues, we'll talk about employee engagement and seamless channel integration as part of this disruption. If you're ready, I was born ready, so let's get to it.
Welcome to this Leading Through Change webinar. And today we're joined by Formu, a leading wealth manager and customer of Salesforce from Norway, with operations also in Sweden and the United Kingdom. Today we look at how customer engagement has changed for them through the new normal, while we've left sort of much of the COVID crisis behind. And today I'm joined by Anders Zachrisson, the Head of Business Development and Technology at Formu, and Carl Sjöström, who's the Chief Marketing Officer at Formu. My name is Sander Daniels, and I'm the Head of Financial Services for the Benelux, Germany and Nordics at Salesforce. Very brief moment looking at our forward-looking statements. There may be elements that are forward-looking in today's webinar. Just don't buy our shares or any purchasing decision based on what you see today. When we look at digital innovation that is transforming the wealth industry, we see a couple of trends as highlighted, for example, by Morgan Stanley and Refinitiv. We see the disintermediation, where 30% of wealth managers are concerned about disintermediation by robo-advisors or other technologies. We see the rise in digital channels, of course, but 57% of those same wealth managers are unsure whether their clients are satisfied with their digital capabilities. And we see continuous investment in those. And then finally, we see intelligent, tailor-made advice. And 61% of wealth managers consider the viewing and creation of analytics and insights from data as super important. And some of those firms, as we know, are severely lacking behind in this respect. From a Salesforce perspective, when we look at our positioning towards the industry, first and foremost, we help wealth managers to build deeper relationships with their clients, to really put the client at the heart of everything they do. And very much taking into account client needs. This means understanding those customers and their journeys across human and digital channels. It also means goal-based financial planning, to really together with the customer figuring out what their life goals are and how you as a wealth manager could help fulfill those. Salesforce has technologies to really orchestrate, optimize, and personalize those interactions with the customers across all channels. We help to bridge the digital and the human conversations so that there is the right conversation at the right time, and that, for example, the human being, the service provider, the financial planner knows the type of interest the customer has shown on digital channels. We help the firm collaborate compliantly together through our platform. Everything in real time and often supported by artificial intelligence. Then we look at embedding insights from systems of record across the firm to achieve a true customer 360 and really improve the data quality that so often is lacking in a number of firms. And finally, secure data, making sure that your data as a customer is 100% secure on our platform, and that we work together to understand how to improve data security across your firm and only have need-to-know access to customer records. When we look at Formu, I'd like to hand over to Anders and really ask Anders to introduce Formu to you. Over to Anders.
Thank you, Sander. Formu is a wealth management business, originated 20 years ago, pretty much exactly, actually, in these days, out of Norway. Our form of advisory and the delivery we're doing to clients best translates to financial life management in English. We have some 85 billion NOKs under advice and management, 20 branches scattered out throughout Norway, Sweden, and also a representation in the UK. Our typical client is high net worth family, multiple generations normally, and also some institutions. And we've been using Salesforce since 2017 and see Salesforce really as quite a catalyst in our strategic work.
Thank you very much, Anders. And then today we'll be looking at some of the business challenges that Formu faces and the way they respond to those, how they've been using Salesforce in some of these instances, and also very much look at the future, the changing advisory model, the changing way of customer engagement.
Yeah, so we like to paint a vision or a future for the business. And looking at some of the changes that are all going on right now, I think in particular there are two major themes here. One is, of course, the fact that historically complex products are moving into standard and also moving towards ultra-low pricing. And we have to consider the business maybe 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it really was about selling products, and the value that we provided to our clients was derived from those products, and the pricing was within those products. And maybe businesses would use advice as a way to package those products and to make them easier to understand for clients. Considering the fact that they're moving towards ultra-low, or sometimes I think in the future even zero pricing, the value chain is really turning upside down. We believe that the focus now is shifting from the products to the actual results in the client's life. And so really putting advisory in the main driving seat. So it's turned upside down. What's going to be important in that scenario is that the advisory becomes the core product, and that advisory is different from what we maybe, again, 20 years ago, it would be investment advisory, asset allocation, risk and return, and all these things. And as I said before, it's moving across to the client's financial life and really the intertwining of their life and their financial situation and their wealth and what they want to do with that wealth. So that's all what we call our advisory model. And then it's about how we deliver this. The hybrid model, as we call it, is really just maintaining the close relationship between client and our staff, be it an expert or an advisor, but then supported with all the technology that we can bring. We also see, of course, that this will increase productivity for our business, our advisors. We also see that clients are demanding more flexibility, and they're used to services like what you could see at Netflix, for example, or Spotify, which is all great customer experience and very flexible choices. And also considering the interfaces that we have in the future to discuss with our clients, be it mobile or even voice in the future, the output really has to be simple. But we need to showcase the fine craftsmanship that we have underneath that. So that's really where we see our business moving.
Very interesting, Anders. And you highlighted that not only the customer expectations have changed, your advisory model has changed, but also the way you can basically earn an income is changing with a new basically revenue stream based on the customer experience. What could that look like?
Well, it's easy to see that if you, again, what I said, that if you take a lot of products moving down towards ultra low pricing, that's really what we could see as the raw materials, or you know, the beans in a cup of coffee, for example. So what makes you pay $5 for a cup of coffee? Is it, you know, what you know that those beans are worth, or is it the experience around it? And again, in our business is, you know, what the value the client sees in terms of the results that they're getting, the advisory that they're getting, and the experience they have in getting that advice is really what's going to set the price in the future. And that's why we're looking at what we call sort of our winning formula for the future. First of all, the client experience and the hybrid client experience. So that's really the second change. It's the way that we interact with our clients now. It's all turned again upside down and starting very much from the digital space and then moving towards you know, a traditional physical meeting, and the clients needs to be able to choose what way they want to interact with us. We'll talk a little bit more to that and give you some examples of how we see that. And then, of course, it's the advisory model that I addressed. You know, being able to discuss a wide variety of topics with our clients, and in maybe different ways as we move along the customer journey. So in short, snackable pieces to start with, but then also to be able to have the in-depth conversation, perhaps with many members of a family, and discussing a new generation and that shift. It's also about changing our own culture, creating a differentiated culture and identity in the marketplace that sort of rhymes with our value proposition moving forward in the future. And then, of course, being able to showcase, you know, our best day advisor every day. So that means that we are working a lot with advisor excellence programming, and to be able to scale that so that we can onboard new young talent quickly into our business, and you know, get them in front of clients as fast as possible.
Wow. Yeah, I certainly like the comments you made on the company culture and the importance of onboarding new staff and to set the right expectations with them. I can imagine that has a very profound impact on your customers to send a very consistent message to them of what you stand for as a brand. Thank you so much, Anders, for your part here and giving us a lot of insights on business challenges and strategy. And now we continue the dialogue with Carl, who's the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer at Formu. And Carl, I would like to ask you to take us through some of the example use cases of how you've deployed our platform across the organization.
Yeah, definitely, Sanders. Thank you for having me. So when we started this journey, we wanted to create a hybrid customer experience, meaning that we wanted to have both traditional human advice and build on an automated digital platform. So we needed one space where our advisors could collaborate with our customers in real time. So one of the first things that we did was sort of look at a partner that could help us to build this hybrid customer experience. We knew that advice customers want to be served throughout various different ways. So we built an app that is sort of a planning app where the advisors and the customer at the same time can enter information regarding their financial wealth, the goals and priorities. We can together, based on the functionalities in Salesforce, create checklists, both for the customers and the advisors. And among other things, we can include other experts regarding tax question, succession planning, etc. Everything at once in this app. And the advisor will use the CRM functionalities as his or her view when they're working with the customer. We also thought that it was very important to have all of the input on Salesforce in order to help the advisor to get the sort of best next steps in existing relationships, but also sharing the data regarding prospects and leads and what they have been doing earlier in the sales funnel. So, and that gathering of data has been very important for not only our advisors who are serving the customers, but also for our business intelligence teams and our top managers and local managers in order to sort of follow up on the advisors and their performance. And obviously, as we will discuss going further, we plan on using the AI functionalities and the machine learning functionalities, and having everything on Salesforce, one platform, will also be extremely important for us.
Thank you, Carl. And as you know, I've always been amazed by your extreme customer focus from Formu, where you started your journey not with a deployment of our platform for the employee, but you actually started with a deployment of the platform towards the customer. And as you just articulated, that means that you've now got this very rich understanding of customer journeys, and you're translating that to the advisors. Could you tell us more about how you do that in terms of customer journey orchestration?
Yeah, definitely. So as a CMO, I wanted to make sure that what we are doing within the marketing team is also very transparent and connected with what the advisors see when they are preparing a customer meeting or a prospect meeting. So we have worked a lot on the transparency from our perspective, meaning that an advisor should know which customer or prospect is invited to which event, when and how are they getting their newsletter, and when and how are they reading the newsletter, and how are we sort of helping them to increase their business by generating leads, converting them into prospects, and then letting the advisor know what has been done before, meaning how did they, on which ad did they come into our website and submit a form, what have they been reading, in order for the advisor to prepare properly for the upcoming meeting. And that is something that Salesforce and Pardot, which we're using, has helped us a lot with. And throughout this funnel, we've also put a lot of emphasis on being able to measure the various steps and what has been done well in terms of campaigns and events and all the data that you can gather when it comes to marketing, and how are the advisors adopting this? How are they using the various assets that we as a department are contributing to? So whether it's a white paper or whether it's a customer quiz that we created, we want to see whether they're using it or not. And that's also important when it comes to KPIs, because we are building a customer experience or a customer journey that is well thought out, that is well planned. And in order to secure the same experience for everyone that's interacting with our brand and with our web page, we need to make sure that the advisors are following various KPIs throughout this funnel. So we can coach them and train them. And at the end of the day, as you mentioned earlier, Sander, it's all about the experience of the customer.
Wow, that's very insightful. And I think if I look at the new normal, that understanding of those journeys across human and digital channels, and to really measure the conversions and take the learnings, that's what it's all about. And I think you've certainly been leading the field in your sector in this respect. So maybe let's look at how you translate those learnings to advisor training. I'd love to learn more.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, none of these changes that we are talking about here will be carried through without everyone understanding what sort of the goal is. How is the best customer meeting going to look like? How do you prepare for it? How do you go through it? And how do you do follow-ups? So as we give the advisors all these new tools in terms of a new CRM, a new app where they can interact with their customers, a new marketing material that goes out through Pardot, we realized that we need a sort of a training program in order to follow up and coach them and make sure that we don't lose any steps that are important for the customer experience. So about 6 or 9 months ago, we bought Trailhead, which is our sort of knowledge platform where we do all the training for our advisors. But not only for the advisors, it's also for top management, it's for back office, it's for marketing, to understand how does the day-to-day life of an advisor look like. Because at the end of the day, we want to support them in order for them to be able to support the customer. So Trailhead is where we build our training programs, and these are important because the advisor has them at the top of his fingertips. They can be in a module where they are trying to build a wealth plan, pull up the app and watch a video on how to do it. And that once again secure the way that everyone should work according to the strategy that we laid out. But we also realized that change is something that has to go on every day. We have to nudge our advisors, and early in the process we realized that our local managers are the ones who should be at the forefront of creating this change. This is what we call train the trainer, and that has been very successful for us because now we know that the local managers are the one who are the ambassadors for this change. It's not top down. And we've also thought a lot about the generational shift within the advisor teams. So we know that we are going to get new talents on board as wealth managers and advisors. And how are we securing their onboarding in order for them to understand what's sort of the new normal, if you like? How are they supposed to work with prospect customers and understand the whole technology that's behind serving one of Formuesforvaltning's customers. So onboarding of new talents is extremely important for us as well.
Wow, that's quite a program you've got there, Carl. Adoption, training, even training in the app and during business processes, and then really that facilitation of new talents. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Very powerful. Now, when we look at the final part of today's agenda, we look to the future. We look at the outlook for you as an organization, and to also to some of the lessons you've learned in dealing with us. Over to you.
We realized that customers are changing. Customers are changing the way that they want to be served. And in order to understand that, we had to really sit down and see, okay, how are the new clients choosing their partner when it comes to managing their wealth? We reconsidered the whole value proposition. We looked at how our brand is going to help the advisors at any points of sale, and how are the back office, marketing, IT, and business intelligence supporting the customer journey that we're trying to build, meaning how do we change the operating model.
And let's look at your key priorities for the future.
Yeah, so with that in mind, we've always kind of thought about a couple of things that are going to follow us through this journey. We think that customers wants to see real results. They want to see how we can impact their lives and how we can sort of give them peace of mind in order for them to focus on what really matters, the family, starting a new business, or just the feeling of having time to not think about the financial returns and the financial performance of their portfolio. So that is extremely important. And as I mentioned earlier, we wanted a platform that can sit on all of the data. And the reason why we wanted that is because we think that in a couple of years, we will be working, and the advisor will be working a lot with AI and machine learning in order to almost ad hoc being able to get the next best step. And that is our key priorities going forward now, because there are so much that we still have to improve, in terms of timing, when to call a customer, when to call a prospect, and also in terms of when you discuss with the customer what the results are. We talk a lot more about results and performance besides the financial results, because at the end of the day, what really matters is, do we keep the family together? Do I feel secure? Do I feel like I have time to focus on what I really want to do and what really matters to me as a customer?
Let's finally look at some of the do's and don'ts of what you've learned throughout the years in your journey of working with our platform.
So these are some of the do's and don'ts, and these are basically hard-earned experiences that we earned throughout these 4 years working with you. And we also use them as sort of guiding principles that we can always fall back on when times are tough, or tough decisions have to be made, and priorities, etc. So starting with the do's, we talk a lot about the priority should be the customer experience. And the customer experience is built on the simplicity of our services, how they interact with us, and whether we can have something really to bring to the table that stands out in a pretty competitive market. We also realized that we as a financial player have to be much faster and keep up the tempo when we're doing this change. So once a month, we have what we call a release cycle, or a release party, where our CEO tells steps on stage to rally the troops and present the new innovations that we created on the platform. And that also creates a sense of urgency for every advisor and the rest of the organization to actually learn what's out there. What's the new thing that we have to train on? New modules in Trailhead, constantly improving at a fast pace. Obviously, remove legacy and say no is extremely important. And it's always easier to do that when you use an external advisor during the implementation. So you get that outside-in perspective, which is so important because that's also the perspective of the customer. As I said earlier, involved mid-management team, extremely important to train the trainer and understand that we have to work very closely with all stakeholders within the organization in order to make this change go through and go through fast.
Thank you. And then I'm sure there's also been some hard-learned lessons of what absolutely not to do. So if you could help us with the don'ts.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this list is short, but and it could have been much longer. But I think these are the important ones. And when you do when you do this change, and when you implement this system and implement a mindset throughout the organization, it's just not sufficient to fund the initiative based on P&Ls, because that wouldn't make sense. We also are very important to not create a legacy 2.0, meaning that we got rid of the first legacy technology. We shouldn't implement something that we know we'll have to change within a couple of years. We're also very conscious with how we are customizing. We prefer not to customize at all, always off-the-shelf sort of software. And we thought a lot about how are we going to drive this change and who is going to govern and prioritize. It's important to make sure that you have a couple of ambassadors, that you have some super users on the platform, and let them be the decision makers when it comes to tech choices. You can't involve everyone. That goes back to keeping up speed and the fast transformation. And once we took the decision, we also, obviously, we asked ourselves the question, is this the right platform? Is there anything else? Will it be anything else there within a year? But we are constantly reminding ourselves that FOBO, fear of a better option, is just something that we don't have. We don't afford to have FOBO. That's how I would put it, because you have to be so focused on the strategy and the change that we want to make. And obviously, involving, as I said earlier, every stakeholder. That's how you get ownership. It shouldn't be something that's pushed down by top management. Involving the trainer and the mid-management layer will be very important for, I'd say, anyone who wants to accomplish this change within 3 or 4 years, as we have been doing it. So, yeah, a lot of important stuff to think about here.
Wow, thank you, Carl. Really some absolutely critical, deep learnings, and that brings me to the end of our webinar. First of all, thank you, Carl, and of course, thank you, Anders.